practice in 2019. I forgot the question mark, but it's a question, okay? This is supposed to be a question. Hello everyone, welcome to this live stream, Melhore Seu Inglês. My name is Erika. I'm an English teacher together with teacher Newton, who has been more present here this year than me. But maybe you've watched one of his live streams. Hello Hafiz, how are you? Thiago, hi. Naresh, good to see you guys here. Fabiani, Diego. So, this live is just for me to organize my thoughts in my head, and maybe you guys can help me. What I pinned here is related to your English practice this year, and I'm trying to figure out what to do in 2020 in terms of using Instagram and other social media and organizing my studies too. Because this year, for example, 2019, I spent a huge amount of time studying. I like to study. One of the reasons I study languages, one of the million reasons I study languages is that I want to feel and have ideas, come up with ideas that can help my students too. And so looking back, the rewards were great. I learned a lot. I shared my insights with my students, and the results were fantastic. I really, really loved, you know, in the end, what they produced, what they were able to achieve. It was awesome. So, but it took me a long time, a lot of time. I did that last year too, in 2018. But I was somehow able to study and do the live streams here on Instagram too. So I'm thinking about how I will organize it this year. And one interesting thing that happened is that I was very upset with my setup for the live stream. I didn't like it at all. It was taking me a long time to set up stuff to prepare for a live stream. And it was not very comfortable, and I'm still trying to find a good way to do it. And it's nice because it relates to how students study too, right? It's very important to find, you know, the environment, the best setup, the best layout for you to profit as much as you can from the short time that you have to study a language. So how the room is organized influences a lot on how much you can learn in a short amount of time, right? In a short period of time. So in my case, I think you can see that there is a window in the back. So what did I do? I changed the position of my desk, and I think by doing this very, very little change in my room physically, I'll be able to do more live streams in the future. This is what I'm hoping for in 2020. I really, really want to do this more often. And I think that this little change will help me do that. So this is something that was kind of hindering my, you know, my the way I was doing the live streams this year. And so how can this be compared to how we study languages? Sometimes there is one little thing that is hindering the way we study. Sometimes we are not studying because of one little thing. So I spent a whole year trying to figure out what to change, and finally Newton actually gave me some help and said, oh, maybe you should change the position of your desk. It's something so simple, so easy, some would say so stupid, but it's not, because just by changing the position of the desk, I can do so much more now. So this is something that, an insight that I got at the end of the year that might help you. Maybe what is preventing you from studying more or in a more efficient way is something very, very small. It's not something huge. It's not that you don't have time or that you don't have money or you don't have something external, something out of your control. It could be something within your control, something that you could change, and this could open, a lot of doors for you in your practice in 2020. So this is one first thing that I wish you can find. If there is something bothering you, focus on that point, try to find a solution, how to fix it, and it may change things in your life for the better, and you will feel better too. So this is one thing that I wanted to tell you. Another thing that is bothering me a lot, and maybe you guys can help me with that, with some ideas, is that as I teach, during my classes, so I spend the whole day involved with English learning, English teaching, and language learning. Language teaching, I'm not teaching just English now, I'm teaching Spanish too, and in the future French and German. At the moment only English and Spanish. But so it's the whole day involved with these languages. How? By teaching, by listening to podcasts, by watching movies and TV shows, by talking to people, by reading, by studying, by doing many things. But what is bothering me is, as I experience the language, I have a lot of insights. And students tell me, oh, Erika, but this is great, you should tell this to other people. But I'm very disorganized in the sense, and I don't write anything down. And then after that, let's say it's a class. After the class is over, I completely forget what I have said, what we have discussed in class with the student. Or if I'm listening to a podcast, it happened yesterday. I like to walk, take long walks and listen to podcasts. And yesterday I was walking with Newton. And I love when we're walking together because I can listen and then I can comment stuff with him. We can exchange ideas. This is exactly what happened yesterday. We were walking. It was almost a 3-hour walk. And I was listening to this new podcast for me. It's a recent discovery for me. And by the way, it is a huge recommendation. The name of the podcast is Lingthusiasm, I think. Lingthusiasm. So it's a combination of linguistics or something and enthusiasm. Let me just check here to make sure. Lingthusiasm, that's it. They have a site and they have these podcasts. I think the episodes come out once a week or so. And I just found out that they have their transcripts on the blog. They have a blog on the site. Is this a blog? I don't know. They put the episodes, the recordings, and the transcripts on their site. So again, Lingthusiasm. So it's a podcast that's enthusiastic about linguistics by Gretchen McCulloch and Lauren Gone. I think Lauren is Australian, by the way. And I tell people to try to listen to people from different countries, get used to the different ways people speak. Lauren has an accent, so it's not difficult to understand, but it's a different accent. And Gretchen also. So I love what they say when they're talking about languages, not just English. Sometimes they compare with other languages. It was the case yesterday. Actually, I listened to many episodes because I was taking such a long walk, and the episodes last from around 20 minutes to 30 minutes. So I listened to a few episodes. And in one of the episodes, they were talking about something that was so interesting. Gretchen was saying, I'm going to say this now because I'll probably forget, but she was saying, this was completely new, that when people speak in English, they tend not to ask direct questions like, how many kids do you have? How old are you? Of course, age is something that is pretty commonly avoided everywhere. But for example, how many kids do you have? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? These kind of questions are not well seen when you're talking to someone in English. They're seen as something impolite. Then I thought, oh my God, really? Because then I started to talk with Newton and to think, to compare. Of course, you have to take the context into account. If you're teaching, if you're in a learning environment kind of situation, it's something completely different, right? But then as I was talking to Newton, I realized that maybe, I don't know, maybe when I'm doing a live stream with another teacher, a native teacher, and I ask these direct questions, because I ask these direct questions all the time in Portuguese, and people don't seem to care here. But in English, maybe they feel, what is the problem with these questions? Is that people, maybe they feel that they have to answer the questions, but they may be a little too intimate questions, and they don't know me. We are talking for the first time, and they feel pressed to answer when, and at the same time, they don't feel they should be answering that. They don't feel comfortable talking about that with a stranger, right? So this was very cool to learn. So talking with Newton, I realized that yes, when I have a student who is a beginner or even intermediate, at an intermediate level, I ask a lot of questions because the class is like that. I ask the student to tell me stories in class. That's what the student does the whole hour. What have you prepared for me today? What stories can you tell me today? And as the student tells me the story, I ask him questions, or them, I ask them questions. So, and at the end, I always ask about their opinion. What do you think about the story? I always do that. And I comment out, so we exchange ideas. We go deeper with the language, grammar, pronunciation, everything. And then I realized that maybe it is something that we typically do with beginners and intermediate level students. But as the student gets more advanced, reaches a more advanced level in English, the student tends to learn more, to focus more on the culture. And this is where this point should enter, maybe, right? So at this point, it doesn't have to do with the time the student has spent learning English, like, oh, after 10 years, I'll be able to pay attention at the culture. It's not like that. It depends on the involvement of the student with the language. So at some point, the language itself, the mechanics, will be kind of under control, and the student will be able to pay attention to these kind of things. Because our class involves a lot of conversation. So how does our conversation in class compare with a conversation with a native speaker? In class, I'm asking a lot of these questions to the student, and sometimes the student asks me back, and I love when the student does that. But is it okay to do that in a, let's say in a spontaneous, kind of natural situation, circumstance? Is it okay to ask this kind of questions to someone you barely know? So this got me thinking. And I could do a video about that, right? But I would have to organize, to write it down. I was walking, and I don't have the habit of taking notes as I walk. So I knew that, oh, I'm going to forget that. I'm sure I'm going to forget that. So I'm talking to you guys now just to register it somehow here. But, well, what is the conclusion here? I want to find a way to remember all these insights and use them in a way that I can share with other people in a video, probably, or books, right? Books or video. How can I do that? I'm not sure. Maybe walk with a pad, a paper pad around, or I don't know. something that will help me collect all these insights and share them with you. One idea, after I changed the position of my desk and now things are a little bit easier for me to remember. During the class, I open a lot of tabs here on my computer as I talk with the student and we try to do some searches and find some answers. So for example, the state of my desktop right now, I want to share with you the links that I have opened here. Okay, so I'll do this now because we have time. We have a lot of time. So that's what I'm doing now. Experiments. This is another tip for you guys for 2020. Experiment. It should never end. It's like infinite. The sheer number of possibilities that you have experimenting, having fun, feel excited about the discoveries you're about to make this new year. Because I feel excited about the discoveries my students I made this past year. It's just fantastic. I just wish I could have written everything down because now things are, everywhere. And I depend on my memory to remember everything and tell you guys. So, first link that is open here is Duolingo. If you've been following us for a couple years now, you already know that I love Duolingo. I use it every day. This is something that I use every single day. Every single day. It's my anchor, it makes me connected with language learning. That's where I start. I start my day with Duolingo. So, last year in 2018, I spent a whole year learning Polish, and I used Duolingo to learn Polish, and my focus was Polish. At the end of 2018, I got a little anxious because I was meeting all these polyglots who were studying these languages, Romance languages like French, Italian, Spanish, etc., and even German in my case, and other languages, and I was very anxious to refresh these languages because I had started learning them in the past, and I had forgotten a lot. So at the end of 2018, I started using Duolingo to review these languages. This year, 2019, my plan in the beginning of the year was to focus on German. I didn't do that. I started refreshing my German, and then I decided to refresh everything. So I spent the whole year using Duolingo to refresh all these languages: French, Spanish, Italian, German. And I also, my notebook is not here, but I also used it to learn some very, very, for me, exciting languages like Hawaiian and Navajo, and now Scots Gaelic, which I love. So today is, I have been using Duolingo for 636 days without interruption, without a break, every single day. How much I use it depends. It depends a lot. It depends on how my days will be. If it's kind of, for example, December and January for me are very good months. I have more time, fewer students, more time to study. So I study a lot. I use and abuse Duolingo. But when it's the middle of the year, I have a lot of students, I study less. I use Duolingo less. But the minimum for me is like 2 minutes. 2 minutes of Duolingo to not break my sequence. What do? I can go to the basics, that's the first unit, and do a quick review. It will take me less than a minute, and I'll get my check there. And I can also use a story. I love Duolingo stories. I use them a lot. In 2 minutes, they take, for me, they take 2 minutes, around 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, I'm done, and I reviewed some of these languages. So Duolingo is always open here. And, okay, so I have a student, I have just finished a class with a student, and he asked me to review an article with him. He's a mathematician, and he's writing this article. He asked me to review the article with him, the abstract and everything else. So we open here, we used a few sites. One of them is a collocation site. Today there are a lot of collocation sites online. The one I prefer is online Oxford Collocation Dictionary. What is a collocation dictionary? What is a collocation? A collocation is when we want to know what word goes with a certain word. So, for example, we were looking at the word capable, and he had written capable to do something. Capable to do... No, actually he had capable to do something. And then it sounded a little weird for me, and I wanted to find out, what do we use after capable? I think it's of, capable of doing something, and then you have to add an ing verb after of. To make sure this is the only possibility capable of, and there are no other possibilities that could fit what he wanted here, I used the dictionary. And the dictionary only says capable of. So this gives us confidence that this is the right answer for that situation there. So a collocation dictionary can help a lot. The one I prefer nowadays, if you guys have any suggestions, please tell me. I love when you tell me about new sites that I don't know, is the online Oxford Collocation Dictionary. If you're not sure what word comes next, because sometimes any word can come next, but sometimes there is a special word that comes next, and then you're not so sure. There are some possibilities that you want to choose from. Go ahead and use a collocation dictionary. I'm going to close this now. And two other sites that we used was, one was, because he is a scientist, he's a mathematician, and he's writing for, how do I call that? Publication, a paper, right? For Nature. So we used Nature magazine. They have some guidelines. So if you're writing a paper like that, an article, and you're going to publish in a magazine or something, it's very important to follow guidelines. And Nature offers a guideline here. He sent me the link. And another link here too. This is a simpler one. Okay, about Google Translate. Google Translate, what can I tell about it? Because I talked about it with Newton too yesterday. About translating things, right? So at first I told Newton that translation is very important in the beginning. That's why I use Duolingo when I'm learning another language. I need to use a language as a reference. Sometimes I use Portuguese, sometimes I use English. My plan is to finish all the languages that I have started with from English first, and then I'm going to switch. I'm going to learn, for example, languages from Spanish. Actually, I've done that a little bit. Languages from French, languages from German, etc. So I think it's important. Translation is important, but we need to learn how to use, when to use translation. Because it again has to do with what, I don't know you guys, but a lot of students, especially people here on Instagram, they complain that when they speak, they can't speak because they are always translating, usually from Portuguese, right? So they think in Portuguese and then they translate word by word in their minds, and then they say the words, and it takes a huge amount of energy and time, and it doesn't always work so well. But it's important that you do that. This is part of the process. It's supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be this way. And if you feel that it takes a lot of work, it should be a reason for you to study more. The more you study, the more familiarized you are with the language, the more surrounded by it, the more you try to incorporate this new way of thinking, the more the language will come to you naturally. But there is a first phase in which we translate a lot in our heads. For example, now I'm learning Scots Gaelic. They say Gaelic, not Gaelic. Scots Gaelic. And it is completely different from any of these other languages that I know better. So I need to translate word by word. I need to do that. But I know that at some point, if I keep practicing, if I practice a lot constantly on a regular basis, at some point, if I want to, at some point these phrases will come to me naturally. I won't need to think about what each word means because it's normal now. So the point is, it needs to become something or stuff or new information. All of these things need to become normal to you so your brain can send the information to you without translating. How does it become normal? It's contact with the language, contact with the language, contact with the language. It doesn't matter if you're thinking, analyzing it all the time or not. Some people say, oh, I'm listening to a song here. Does it count? Yes, it counts. It counts. I'm listening to a podcast, but I'm not really paying attention. Does it count? Yes, it counts. Because at some points, your brain will not pay attention, but at other points, it will. There will be something that will stick to your brain. So don't push it, and don't push it at the same time. Try to have fun, right? So the more fun you have, the easier it is for you to remember things. You have a pleasant memory. This is cool too. Try to create pleasant memories when you use the language, when you're using... So if you're going to watch a movie that you like, that you enjoy, that you have fun, right? That brings out a connection, an emotional connection with what you're doing. If you're reading something in English, it should be meaningful to you. Try to visualize in your head. You know, that's what I do. I'm learning Scots Gaelic. The sentences are super short, and it's very hard for me to memorize. Sometimes they have 2-3 words, and it's hard because the sounds are crazy for me, are bizarre. The meaning, you know, everything is disconnected. So how do you remember these words? Creating connections. So this is another tip for you guys. Try to create connections somehow. You know, use your creativity. This is the time to use creativity. To create connection with something that you want to learn. What does it mean? Creating connection helps you create memories. Try to create these pleasant memories. And these memories will help you to improve. That's what you want to do, right? I think everyone here already knows some English. So you're not beginners. You want to improve your English. That's what we do here in our course, in our channel. We want you to go further, right? Especially those students that are in that intermediate plateau. They have stagnated there. They have stopped there. Some people are satisfied with where they are, but I would recommend that you push yourself. You can go even further than that, and you have a lot to gain by doing that. So Google Translate, I recommend using Google Translate. I use it a lot. Of course, it depends. Sometimes I use it more than other times, but it's not something to be... Actually, another tip, I can't think of a resource that I will tell you not to use. If you tell me, Erika, is there anything on the internet, you know, related to English learning that I should not use? I can't think of any resource that fits that category. I can't think of one resource. I think you can get something from basically anything in English. If it's connected with English somehow, there is something there positive that can help you somehow. So Google Translate is one of them, okay? And some students say, oh, but I will become addicted to translating. Rest assured, you will not become... Do you know anyone who is addicted to Google Translate? No. Why? Because it's very tiring to use it all the time. It is super tiring. And at some point it gets annoying. And they say, oh my God, my students do this all the time. I tell them, use Google Translate. They say, oh, I'm not going to do this now. No, I prefer not to. Because what I do in class is the students tell stories. And of course, there are a lot of words they don't know. And then I tell them, don't ask me, use Google. It's much faster. And I want to know what you have to say. I don't want to stop the flux of ideas all the time to tell you the words. Use Google. And they say, oh no, that's okay. I'll explain this in a different way. Okay, fine. But the tool is there. If you want to know what the word is or the expression is, just use it, okay? Okay, the other side is enthusiasm. Now, moving on to this brilliant site that I heard of a long time ago, but this year, 2019, was the year where I use it so much, and I'm always on my students' case telling them to use this too. They are lazy to use it, to be honest, but I'm insisting, and in 2020, I will insist even more. Youglish. Why? Because if you learn a new word, for example, today, a student, Bruna, learned a new word, the verb to grab, right? And then she was telling me, oh, Erika, I learned this new word and I got some examples. I learned this word. I don't remember where she learned this word, but she was explaining to me what it means and examples and this new dictionary, online dictionary that she likes to use, etc., etc. It was super cool. And then I put the word here on Youglish to try to find more examples with the word. And it's nice because you see how native people use this word, you know, in a natural conversation, which is not, it's not scripted. I haven't seen any video on Youglish which is scripted. It's kind of 100% natural, 100% natural English on Youglish. So you will hear people speaking in different speeds, different accents, and using the word in different ways. And I even tell the students to observe the patterns, né? Observar os padrões, observe the patterns, and try to see how people use it. What is the most common way people use that piece of information, that word, that phrase? Try to pay attention to that. So Youglish is great. What I tell students to do is try to get at least 10 examples, you know, examples that can show you how people use it in natural conversations. Copy those. You don't have to get the whole sentence. Sometimes they're huge. Get just part of it, the part that is the most important there. Copy that somewhere on a notebook, on a Google Doc. This is your research. It is meaningful because you found that information. You selected the examples. You put them in somewhere, in a document or in your notebook. Okay, so collecting examples is a very, very good way to complement learning the theory behind grammar, which I recommend doing too. Okay, my students, they study grammar every week. They choose a topic and they explain the grammar to me. That's what we do in class. And they choose something that is bothering them, or sometimes when we correct a text, we notice that there is one mistake that has been was made repeatedly, that appeared repeatedly there. And then I tell the student, maybe this is something you should go deeper and study a little more. The student studies that. Next class, they tell me what they have found out, what they have discovered. It's all about discovery, I think. Our class is all about conversation and discovery. What have you discovered? What have you discovered from your research, okay? From what you did, not the teacher, from what you did. And then, of course, there is feedback here and we go even deeper. So Youglish is a good site. The site Bruna told me about today, the online dictionary, is Longman. I don't know if you guys use it, but it is fantastic. It is a fantastic dictionary. If you don't use it, I recommend using it. One of the things that caught my attention immediately was that they have a verb table for if the word is a verb, right? If the word is a verb, there is a verb table with all the simple forms, all the continuous forms. There isn't a table for perfect forms. Oh no, yeah, because it's simple and continuous. So simple, for example, perfect simple, past simple, etc. Yes, and the continuous forms: present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, future perfect continuous, and so on and so forth. So the tables are here. If you don't know what verb form to use, it's very easy and very easy to find because it's yellow. The table is yellow. And it's absolutely fantastic. The kind of information you can find. It's fun. The colors help you find information quickly. So Longman Dictionary. Longman Dictionary. And do you guys use any Hunk-Dory? I'm just taking a look at the comments here. Can you give me the chance to join on live? Yes, not today because this is supposed to be a short live. Where are you from? My name is Erika. I'm from Brazil. Okay, South America. What else? Can I have a few words with you? Yes, what would you like to talk about? Hello, 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 everyone. Just a break here for me to breathe. Let's see what you guys are saying. So, what I was saying in the beginning of the live is that I wasn't doing so many lives this year, 2019, probably because of the position of my desk. And now that I changed the position of my desk, maybe this will help me do more lives this year. This is what I want. Hopefully, cross your fingers. Hopefully this will work. And if it works, fantastic. So my tip is try to find one small thing that is preventing you from really studying English this year. Something that could, if you fix this one small thing, it will mean that you will be able to learn a lot of English this year. Can you guys give me an example in your lives right now? So let me read a comment here. Hi, I'm Albert. I don't even know if you're still here. Albert, I hope so. From Belo Horizonte, in my mind, you can wear gloves and practice finger with a partner. Oh, can wear the gloves and practice fight with your partner. This will help you a lot. Real situation whenever it will be like a real fight. Yes. So one thing, but of course there are steps, right? You're not going to talk with a native speaker. A lot of people have tried. If you don't know English and you want to speak with a native speaker, you will have a hard time. And so that's why there are steps to achieve that point. How much time will you spend on those steps? Only God knows, only you know, because you can help control that, right? It depends a lot on you, maybe not only on you, but a lot on you. So there are steps. I'm learning Scots Gaelic. I cannot speak to a Scottish person right now. I will not understand the person, and I will just be able to say, hi, how are you? And I'll probably not even understand what the person will say back to me. So I need steps first. There are steps, right? So preparation is key. Preparation is key. Yes, this example can also be applied in languages. That's a very good example. What else? Let me just scroll down here. Newton is here, and he is responsible for changing my life live stream wise. Changing the position of the desk is helping me do this live stream. When you stop what you're doing to restart, you're training your brain. I'm not sure I understand what you say, Albert, but being able, if you have to stop, and many times we have to stop somehow. For example, I stopped doing the live streams, right? In 2018, I did a lot of live streams. In 2019, I didn't. I stopped. I kind of stopped. So being able to start again, this is so powerful. So powerful. It's even more powerful, I would say, than just starting. It's very easy to start. It's harder to continue, and it's even harder to restart after you have stopped. What do you guys think? So when you're able to restart something that is really important to you, you feel you need to do it. It shows how much power you have, how much control of over yourself you have, how much discipline you have, and this is true power, you know, because this comes from you. It comes from you. If you are able to control what you do, you are able to control. I'm going to start this again now, and you do it. This is power, true power, and congratulations to you if you're able to do this. This is what I admire in people, by the way, okay? I very, very rarely admire stuff that people have bought with money. I cannot say I don't admire everything. There are things that I admire, but it's not very common. What I tend to admire in people is this strength that they have that comes from inside themselves, especially in a student. When I see a student able to control what they do, you know, a student who is able to control that, I'm going to study English, I'm going to do this, to study in this way. I admire a student who accepts that mistakes are part of the learning process, but the student speaks in spite of that, takes risks and practices, you know, because learning is more important than feeling bad for a mistake. Learning is exciting. It's a lot more exciting than the shame you will feel because you made a mistake. Oh my God, I made a mistake. Don't make such a big deal out of a mistake, right? Because it takes a lot, it drains energy. This is the problem when you put the mistake in the spotlight. It drains the energy. That's what it does. Energy that you should be using to fix the mistake. This is the intelligent, smart way to learn. You make the mistake because you're supposed to make the mistake, and then you use the energy you have to learn with the mistake, to try to avoid repeating the mistake, to learn, to overcome that. There are so many other things you need to learn, right? So reframing, changing the way you see the learning process is important. And I admire this in the student. I admire people who change the perspective and has a more positive focus, you know, a more positive perspective, a perspective who will, I know, and the people will know, that will learn them grow. This is the most important thing. Do you know how you can arrange things so you can learn? This is the power that I admire in people. Okay, so I was talking about, okay, just scroll back a bit more. When you stop what you're doing every time you make a mistake, you are teaching your brain to stop under pressure. I learned that the key is just keep going. Yes, very good, Albert. We could do a live sometime in the future because you have such good tips here. You're telling us such good tips. Yes, thank you, by the way, for your tips. They're very insightful. And yes, keep going. Because again, don't make such a big deal out of a mistake in a way that it will make you stop learning. It's not the way people learn. you make the mistake because you're supposed to make the mistake, and then what I do is, when I'm repeating the mistake many times, especially with Scots Gaelic, I stop everything and then I examine, what am I doing wrong? Do I need to go back to the theory and refresh my memory? Usually when I do that, I start getting things right. So I go back to the theory, I review it, I take my time, I don't rush. Okay, so when I make a mistake, usually what it means is that I'm going too fast. I'm going too fast. So I slow down, I take a very careful look at all the elements there, why they are this way, what are the peculiarities, particularities, and then I pay a lot of attention. Sometimes I create images in my head. The words in Scots Gaelic are very different from Portuguese, so I need to connect the words. I use mnemonics a lot. I need to connect the words, the spelling of the word. And by the way, another tip for you guys. The spelling of Scots Gaelic is very different for me from any other language I know. So I was telling Newton about it yesterday. What I do is I have a notebook, not this one here, but something similar to this one. Let me see if I can show you guys. Here, this one here. And I think I can show you what I'm doing. Because my writing is very bad, and sometimes I can't understand what I write in current, how do you say that? Current writing. I cannot understand what I wrote. If I know the language well, I understand what I wrote. But if it's a new language, I do not. So what do? I use uppercase, okay? So uppercase or not caps lock. Caps lock when you're typing. Uppercase. So here, can you see that in the first line, I use uppercase. And in the translation, because I like translation, I use my regular writing that I don't know if you can understand. I can. But if I write this way in Scots, I will never be able to understand the words. So here, another example in Scots Gaelic and in English, because this is a course from English. So again, the importance of translation for me. Okay, so I started doing that. I never did this before. Never. I started doing that because I was very pissed that I couldn't understand my own writing. And I was, what the F have I written here? My God, I'm wasting time trying to understand my own writing. So I'm using, it's not caps lock, letra maiúscula. Capital letters. I'm using these capital letters. This is a tip for you. I don't know if any of you do that, but if you're having a hard time distinguishing words in English, of course, I know everybody complains about thought, though, even though, thorough, etc., 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 through. If you're having a hard time distinguishing these words, I recommend using capital letters. Write by hand, because we have something called muscle memory. Muscle memory. So write by hand, slowly, carefully. My conclusion here with Scots Gaelic, I've been learning a lot, is if you're making a mistake that is repeated, it's because you're rushing, you're going too fast. Slow down. Slow down. Analyze what your mistake is carefully, and make sure, try to make sure you will not confuse this again in the future. This is how I'm moving with my course in Scots Gaelic. Otherwise, I wouldn't continue because it's very frustrating. But I'm learning because of that, because I'm slowing down and writing the words very slowly in capital letters. and now I'm starting to get used to how things are spelled in Scots Gaelic. Okay, what do you think about learning English? Gonna read comics books like X-Men comics? I think it's a great idea. When I was little, I started learning languages very, very little. My father likes comic books, so there were a lot of comic books at my home, and some of them were in Spanish. And of course, I read them all, and I learned a lot of Spanish by reading comic books. So I think it's fun. If it's fun, if you like it, go ahead and do it, okay? And use your imagination and try to use that material in different ways, okay? So you can copy the text on a notebook. You can, when I was a kid, there was no internet, so I couldn't learn the pronunciation of the words. Today you can. So you can use Google Translate here and learn the pronunciation of the words. Memorize short phrases. There are always, you know, those phrases, those effect phrases that your heroes say, right? Choose those. Remember Game of Thrones? Not Sansa's sister, what's her name? She became a spy, and there were those phrases she used to say, and nerds love to memorize them and repeat them. This is a fun way to learn a language, okay? So if you have a hero, if there is a phrase that you really love, I do that a lot, and you feel, oh, I want to say this phrase here, I want to say this sentence here to someone, I'm gonna tell this to Newton. I do that with Scots Gaelic. I say, hi, how are you, in Scots Gaelic to him. He doesn't understand, he says yes, he replies with a yes, but it's fun. So use your imagination, because the sky is the limit with the technology we have today that I didn't have when I was a child. Okay, so have fun, and have fun. Hello, Eugenio. Are you still here? What do you guys have to say about what I'm saying here? Do you feel the same? Alice, what is reason learning English quickly? What is the reason of learning English quickly? A lot of people want to learn a language quickly for many reasons, right? Sometimes, I don't know, you could have an interview in English soon, a job interview, or maybe you're going to travel. I don't know, there are a million reasons why people would like to learn a language quickly. In this case, if you want to learn something quickly, in my case here, I want to learn Scots Gaelic quickly because I just want to learn the basics, and it's not my intention to go really deep in the language. I just want to know, I like to know the basics of a language. So I want to do this fast, and this can be a problem sometimes because I start making mistakes when I go too fast. And maybe you guys go through the same experience too. So if you need to learn something, prepare for a trip or a job interview, practice, choose the kind of language you think you're going to use, practice that kind of language. But of course, learning a language is a lifelong hobby, I would say, or a lifelong kind of task or undertaking, if you would like to know a more sophisticated synonym. I've had some issues with learning new words. Yes, how do I learn new words? So I like to do that. I like to write them in capital letters on my notebook. I don't draw well, but I try to visualize, to connect with something. Something that I did a lot last year was to record videos. It helped me a lot with Polish. That's when I was learning Polish. So, and I'm very happy that I can understand. Sometimes I read stuff in Polish comments online and I can understand what people are saying, probably because of that connection, that effort. We have to make an effort to remember. A lot of repetition, it helps a lot too. What important in English? What do you mean, Halis? Why is English important? Is that your question? I like English very much, but not perfect, learn for me. it's never perfect. It will never be perfect for anyone. Even your native language, in my case, my native language is Portuguese. I don't speak it perfectly. And I have a lot of problems with Portuguese. Interpretation problems, conjugation problems, spelling problems. I actually listen to a podcast that teaches Portuguese too. I don't know if you guys are from Brazil. If you are from Brazil, you know Professor Pascali, and he has a CBN podcast, and it's very short, a 5-minute podcast. It's from Monday to Friday. I listen to him every day, and I'm always learning. I'm always learning because there is always something new to learn, even in your native language. So do not expect perfection. If you expect perfection, you're in for a lot of frustration. A lot of frustration. I think you should expect fun. Have fun. Have fun. Rosa, I improved a lot, but I want to be more fluent. If you want to be more fluent, you need to keep doing what you're doing and speak a lot, right? Because if you want to improve something, you need to do more of that something. Help me learning. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to help you learn because I'm a learner myself. It's important to make mistakes during the process, yes. The mistakes, I think, are, I don't know if I can say that, the most important part of the learning process is the mistake. It's not what you're learning, what other people are telling you, it's the mistake. Because when you make a mistake, it shows that your brain is trying to process something new, some new piece of information. This is what a mistake shows. If it's not just that, it's one thing that a mistake shows, is that your brain is trying to process something new. It shows that you are making an effort. If you do not make a mistake, it shows that you are not pushing yourself. When you do not make a mistake, the impression that I have is that you're not pushing yourself. You're not moving ahead, you're not going further, you're kind of stuck on a plateau. You're not making a mistake, you're not taking risks, and I think it's kind of impossible not to make mistakes because even when we don't want, the world is pushing us to move ahead. So even if we don't want to learn more, we end up learning and making mistakes. So I think it's impossible not to make mistakes. Do you guys know anyone who does not make mistakes? I do not. Hello, Marcelo. Alice, what is perfect English academic between British, American English? Okay, there is academic English, yes, and there is British English, American English, and a lot of other types of English. South African English, Australian English, English from New Zealand, and from a lot of other places. So if you start going into this, you will see how rich the language is. It's super, super rich, fascinating, incredibly addictive. Where do you live? I live in Brazil, South America. Okay, so hello, Pakistan, hello. Mistakes are the best teachers, yes. If you pay attention at the mistake, they can be a teacher. If you do not pay attention at your mistake, you keep repeating the mistake, okay? So this is the problem with mistakes. After you make the mistake, you're supposed to pay attention and try to find the correct way to do things, right? Because if you do not pay attention, and this is what I see, this is very common, especially among intermediate students. They feel too comfortable making the same mistake all the time. They don't take the time to stop and analyze what you're doing. Time is almost over, so please, I hope I'll be able to do this more often. Let's hope so. I wish I do more live streams, but if we don't meet before next year, have a great 2020. Learn a lot, have fun, relax, enjoy the process, trust the process, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.